Commander Jake Harrison pressed his face against the cold metal window of the spaceship. Below him, the planet Zarian 7 looked like a giant red eye staring back at him. Dark clouds moved across its surface like angry spirits. The planet had been quiet for 3 months now. Too quiet. Jake turned away from the window and walked down the narrow hallway of the exploration ship called Starbound. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. He had been in space for 15 years, but he still felt nervous when a mission went this wrong. The new Dawn Colony ship had disappeared 3 months ago. 2,000 people had gone down to start a new life on Zarian 7. Then nothing. No radio calls, no emergency signals, no signs of life. It was like the planet had simply swallowed them whole. Dr. Lisa Morgan was waiting for him in the science lab. She looked tired and worried. Her brown hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she had dark circles under her eyes. She had been working for days trying to figure out what happened to the colonists. "Jake, you need to see this," Lisa said. She pointed to a large screen showing numbers and graphs. "The bioscans are showing something strange. There is only one life form down there, but look at these energy readings." Jake looked at the screen. The numbers were huge. Much bigger than anything he had seen before. What kind of creature gives off this much energy? "I don't know," Lisa said. "But whatever it is, it's massive. And Jake, it's been moving in patterns. Like it's hunting something." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. "Show me the movement patterns." Lisa pressed some buttons and the screen changed. Red dots showed where the creature had been over the past 3 months. The dots made a clear path through the colony site, back and forth, like something looking for prey. It started at the main colony building, Lisa said. Then it moved to the housing areas, then to the farms, then to the emergency shelters. "Jake, I think it hunted them all down, one by one." Jake stared at the screen. 2,000 people, gone. "What about their weapons?" The colony had military protection. "That's the scary part," Lisa said. "The weapons depot shows signs of a fight. But whatever this thing is, it survived plasma cannons, laser rifles, and even explosive charges. Their best weapons didn't stop it." Jake walked to another window and looked down at the planet again. Somewhere down there, in the ruins of what was supposed to be a new home for 2,000 humans, something was waiting. Something that had killed trained soldiers and innocent families alike. "Sir?" a young voice called from behind him. Jake turned to see Communications Officer Amy Johnson. She was only 22 years old, and this was her first deep space mission. "Sir, we're getting some strange readings from the planet's surface." "What kind of readings?" "It's like radio signals, but not from any human equipment. They're coming from the same area where the creature is located." Jake and Lisa looked at each other. "The creature is sending signals?" Jake asked. "It seems like it," Amy said. "But they're not in any language our computers recognize. They're complex, but they follow patterns, like they mean something." Jake felt his heart beat faster. A creature that could survive humanity's best weapons and could send complex signals. This was not just a wild animal. This was something intelligent. "Show me everything you have on this creature," Jake said. Lisa brought up more screens. Pictures taken by the ship's cameras showed the colony from above. What had once been a neat arrangement of buildings and farms was now a twisted mess of broken metal and burned ground. In the center of the destruction was a shape that made Jake's blood freeze. The creature was huge. Even from space, they could see it was at least 12 feet tall. Its body was covered in dark scales that looked like pieces of black metal. It had 4 arms, each ending in claws that looked like they could cut through steel. But the most frightening thing was its eyes. Even from this distance, Jake could see they glowed with an unnatural light. "My God," Jake whispered. "We've been calling it Vexthara," Lisa said. "It's a name from an old Earth language that means death shadow, because that's what it looks like from up here." Jake watched as the creature moved across the colony ruins. It moved with purpose, like it was looking for something. Or someone. "Sir," Amy said, "I'm getting more of those signals. But they're stronger now. I think it knows we're here. Jake felt everyone in the room look at him. As commander, he had to make the decision. They could leave and report back to Earth Command. Tell them that Zarian 7 was lost and that humanity should never come back here. Or they could try to find out what happened to the 2,000 people who had trusted them to keep them safe. Options? Jake asked. We could bombard the surface from orbit, said Tony Martinez, the weapons specialist. He was a big man with scars on his hands from years of handling dangerous equipment. Hit it with everything we have, maybe that would kill it. And maybe it wouldn't, Lisa said. We don't know what this thing is capable of. For all we know, our weapons would just make it angry. We could leave, Amy said quietly. Report back to Earth, let them send a bigger fleet. Jake looked at each of them. Tony wanted to fight. Lisa wanted to study. Amy wanted to run. All reasonable choices. But Jake thought about the 2,000. People who had come here looking for a new life. They had families back on Earth who were waiting for news. Children who wanted to know if their parents were safe. I'm going down there, Jake said. Sir, that's suicide, Tony said. Maybe, Jake said. But I need to know what happened to our people. And I need to know what this creature wants. I'm going with you, Lisa said. Me too, Amy said, though her voice shook a little. And me, Tony added, if we're going to do something this stupid, at least we should have good weapons. Jake looked at his team. They were scared, but they were willing to follow him. That meant something. All right. We go down in the stealth shuttle. We get close enough to see what we're dealing with, but nobody takes any risks. If this thing is as dangerous as it looks, we observe from a distance and get out? And if it finds us? Amy asked. Jake looked out the window at the planet below. The creature was still moving through the ruins, still hunting, still waiting. Then we find out why the galaxy's strongest predator is on a planet full of dead humans. Jake said. Lisa prepared the bioscanners while Tony checked their weapons. Amy set up the communication equipment. Jake watched them work and felt proud of his team. They were afraid, but they were still willing to do their jobs. The shuttle was small but fast. It could get them to the planet's surface without being detected. At least that was the plan. Jake had learned that plans rarely survive contact with the enemy. As they prepared to leave the Starbound, Jake took one last look at the planet below. Somewhere down there, answers waited. And somewhere down there, the creature that had killed? 2,000 humans was waiting too. The shuttle bay doors opened, and Jake's team headed toward the planet where death lived. None of them knew that their lives were about to change forever. None of them knew that the creature below was about to teach them something about themselves that would shake the entire galaxy. The hunt was about to begin. But who was hunting whom? The shuttle cut through the red clouds of Zarian 7 like a knife through blood. Jake Harrison sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls even though his heart was beating fast. Behind him, his team checked their equipment one more time. Dr. Lisa Morgan looked at her scanner and shook her head. The energy readings are getting stronger as we get closer. Whatever this thing is, it's like a walking power plant. Tony Martinez loaded his plasma rifle and checked his backup weapons. I've got enough firepower here to take down a small army. But after seeing what happened to the colony's defenses, I'm not sure it will be enough. Amy Johnson monitored the communication systems. I'm still picking up those strange signals. They're getting more complex. It's like the creature is trying to say something. Jake brought the shuttle down in a clearing about 2 miles from the colony ruins. The landing was smooth, but as soon as they touched ground, everyone felt it. There was something wrong with this place. The air felt thick and heavy, like it was pressing down on them. Atmosphere is breathable, Lisa said, checking her instruments. But there's something else in the air. Some kind of chemical that I can't identify. Fear, Tony said. The air smells like fear. Jake opened the shuttle door and stepped out first. The ground was soft and muddy, covered with strange red grass that seemed to move even though there was no wind. The sky above was dark red, like the inside of a wound. Stay close, Jake said. And keep your weapons ready, but don't shoot unless I give the order. They walked toward the colony ruins. What they saw made them all stop and stare. The buildings hadn't just been destroyed. They had been torn apart like toys in the hands of an angry child. Metal beams were twisted into impossible shapes. Concrete walls had been shattered into dust. And everywhere there were claw marks. Deep gouges in the metal that showed just how powerful this creature was. "Look at this," Lisa said, kneeling next to a piece of twisted metal. "These claw marks go right through reinforced steel. Whatever made these has claws sharper than any cutting tool we have." Tony examined the remains of a defensive position. "The soldiers made their stand here. Look at the blast marks. They used everything they had, but it wasn't enough." Amy was scanning the area with her communication equipment. "The signals are getting stronger. It's like the creature is talking to itself, or maybe to us." Jake led them deeper into the ruins. They passed the remains of homes where families had lived. Children's toys were scattered in the mud. Pictures of happy families lay torn and dirty on the ground. Jake felt anger building in his chest. 2,000 innocent people had died here. "There," Amy whispered, pointing ahead. "Movement." Jake looked where she was pointing. At first he saw nothing. Then the shadows seemed to shift and move. Something huge was moving between the ruins, staying just out of sight. "It's playing with us," Tony said, raising his weapon. "No," Jake said. "It's watching us, learning about us." They moved forward carefully. The creature stayed just ahead of them, always moving, always watching. Jake began to realize that they were not hunting the creature. The creature was hunting them. "Sir," Amy said, her voice shaking. "The signals are changing. They're not random anymore. They're responding to our movements." Jake stopped walking, everyone freeze. They all stood perfectly still. The signals from Amy's equipment changed immediately. They became softer, more questioning. "It's intelligent," Lisa breathed. "It's not just a monster, it's thinking." That's when they heard it. A sound like thunder rolling across the ground, but it wasn't coming from the sky. It was coming from the creature. A deep, rumbling growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The trees around them began to bend away. From an invisible force, the air grew thick and heavy. Jake felt his survival instinct screaming at him to run, to hide, to get away from whatever was coming, but he didn't run. Instead, Jake did something that surprised even himself. He stepped forward, away from his team, away from safety. He reached up and took off his helmet. "Jake, what are you doing?" Lisa called out. "Stay back," Jake said calmly. "All of you, stay back." The rumbling grew louder. The ground shook under their feet. And then, from the shadows between the ruined buildings, Vexthura emerged. The creature was even more terrifying up close than it had looked from space. It stood 12 feet tall, its body covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light. Its forearms ended in claws as long as swords. Its eyes glowed with an inner fire that made Jake's skin crawl. But the most frightening thing about Vexthura was not its size or its claws or its glowing eyes. It was the intelligence behind those eyes. This was not a mindless beast. This was a thinking, planning, reasoning creature that had chosen to kill 2,000 humans. Tony raised his weapon, but Jake held up his hand. "Don't shoot. Jake, are you insane?" Tony whispered. Vexthura moved closer, each step shaking the ground. It could have killed them all in seconds. Jake knew this. His team knew this. The creature knew this, but Jake didn't run. He didn't beg. He didn't try to bargain or offer the creature something to spare their lives. Instead, he looked directly into those glowing eyes and spoke. "I know you can understand me," Jake said, his voice calm and steady. "I know you're intelligent. I'm not here to fight you. I'm here to understand why you killed my people." Vexthura stopped moving. Its massive head tilted to one side, like a dog hearing a strange sound. "I see the intelligence in your eyes," Jake continued. "I see that you're not just a killer, you're something more. So tell me, why did you do it? Why did you kill 2,000 innocent people?" The creature's eyes seemed to focus on Jake with new intensity. It opened its mouth, revealing teeth like black daggers. But instead of roaring or attacking, it made a series of complex sounds. Clicks and whistles and deep rumbles that seemed to carry meaning. Amy's communication equipment went crazy. "Sir, the signals are off the charts. It's trying to communicate with us." Jake's universal translator struggled to make sense of the sounds. Slowly, words began to form in his earpiece. The voice was deep and strange, but unmistakably intelligent. "You do not flee," the creature said through the translator. Jake felt his heart skip a beat. It was talking to him. "Actually talking, no," Jake said. "I don't flee. I want to understand." The creature moved closer, its massive form looming over Jake. "Others always flee or beg. Or offer things, you Because I need to know," Jake said. "Those people you killed, they were under my protection. I failed them. I need to know why." Vextara's eyes seemed to burn brighter. "Protection, yes, your kind even when hopeless, even when death certain, still protect." Jake felt something shift in the air around them. The feeling of danger was still there, but it was different now. Less like a predator stalking prey and more like two intelligent beings trying to understand each other. "Your people," Vextara continued, "fought me, but for themselves, for others, for young, for weak, for those who could not fight, they died, but did not abandon." Jake felt tears forming in his eyes. They were good people. They didn't deserve to die. "Deserve," Vextara repeated, as if testing the word. "New concept." "I know hunger. I know don't. I know kill, but deserve. This is unknown." Behind Jake. His team watched in amazement as their commander had a conversation with the most dangerous creature in the galaxy. This was not how first contact was supposed to go. "I have lived. Long time," Vextara said. "Seen many species, all same, all predictable, fear, flee, fight, die. But your kind different, your kind choose to hope even when hope foolish." Jake stepped even closer to the creature. "Hope is never foolish. Hope is what makes us human." Vextara's massive head lowered until it was level with Jake's. "Human, yes, I wish to understand human." Jake stood face to face with the galaxy's most feared predator, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. Vextara's glowing eyes studied him with an intensity that should have been terrifying, but instead felt almost curious. "You want to understand humans?" Jake asked. "Then let me show you something." Jake slowly reached into his jacket pocket. Tony tensed behind him, ready to shoot if the creature attacked, but Vextara didn't move. It watched as Jake pulled out a small device. "This is a memory recorder," Jake said, holding up the small silver box. "It contains the last messages from the colonists before they died. Their final words to their families back on Earth. Would you like to hear what they said?" Vextara's massive head tilted. "Yes, I would hear." Jake pressed a button on the device. A woman's voice filled the air, shaky but determined. "Mom, if you're hearing this, then we didn't make it. But I want you to know that we tried to protect the children. We got most of them to the emergency shelters before it found us. Tell my sister that I love her. Tell her that we faced the end together and nobody ran." Another voice, a man this time, older and tired. "Sarah, honey, Daddy's not coming home. But I want you to know that your old man went down fighting. We all did. We stood together until the very end. Take care of your mother. Be brave. Be strong. Be human." More voices followed. A teacher who had stayed with her students. A doctor who had refused to leave the medical center. A security guard who had died buying time for others to escape. Every message was the same. People facing certain death, but thinking about others instead of themselves. Vextara listened to every word. As the messages played, something strange happened. The creature's aggressive posture began to change. Its claws retracted slightly. Its glowing eyes seemed to dim, becoming less threatening and more thoughtful. They knew they would die. Vexthora said when the messages ended, yet they chose to stay. Chose to protect others. This makes no survival sense. That's exactly the point, Jake said. Humans don't always make survival sense. We make human sense. We choose to do what's right even when it's not smart. Lisa stepped forward carefully, her scanner still recording everything. Vexthara, can you tell us about the other species you've encountered? How did they react when they faced you? The creature's attention shifted to Lisa, always same. See. Me feel fear, run, or fight. When running fails, they beg. Offer me things. Food, territory, their weak ones as sacrifice. They choose themselves over others, always. But not humans, Amy said, her voice growing stronger as she overcame her fear. No, not humans. Your soldiers, when I broke through their defenses, they did not scatter, they formed circle around your weak ones. Stood with backs to those they protected. Faced me knowing they would die, but choosing to die together. Tony lowered his weapon slightly. That's what soldiers do. We protect people. No, Vexthara said, its voice becoming more animated. I have killed soldiers of many species. They fight for honor, for duty, for fear of punishment. Your soldiers fought for love of those behind them. Love of idea that some things matter more than life. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. You've been studying us, learning about us. Yes, I have lived for many centuries, traveled to many worlds, hunted many species, but never have I seen beings who choose others over themselves. Never have I seen beings who maintain hope when hope is foolish. Vexthara began to move, but not toward them. Instead, it walked toward a pile of rubble that had once been a building. Come, I will show you something. Jake's team followed cautiously. The creature led them to what appeared to be a large hole in the ground. But as they got closer, they realized it was actually a carefully constructed underground chamber. I made this, Vexthara said, after your people died. I did not understand why they would not abandon their dead, so I preserved them. Jake looked down into the chamber and felt his breath catch. The bodies of the colonists were arranged carefully, respectfully. They had been cleaned and positioned with dignity. Personal items had been placed beside them. Children's toys, family, photos, wedding rings. My God, Lisa whispered, you gave them a proper burial. I did not understand, Vexthara said. In all my centuries I have never cared for the dead. Dead is dead. But your people, even as they died, they reached for each other. They died. Holding hands, they died whispering names of loved ones. They died protecting bodies of those already fallen. Jake felt tears streaming down his face. They were trying to stay human even at the end. Yes, human, I begin to understand this word. To be human is to choose others over self. To be human is to hope when hope is gone. To be human is to love beyond reason. Amy was recording everything on her communication equipment. Vexthara, why did you kill them if you found them so interesting? The creature's eyes dimmed. Because that is what I am, what I have always been. I am predator. I hunt, I kill, I consume. It is my nature. But your people, they showed me that nature is not destiny. That one can choose to be different. Different how? Jake asked. I have spent centuries being what I was born to be, a perfect killer. But your people showed me that perfection is not in being what you are born to be. Perfection is in choosing to be what you should be, Tony stepped forward. So what do you choose to be now? Vexthara was quiet for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was different, softer, more uncertain. I do not know. For centuries I have been alone. I have been feared. I have been the darkness that makes other species check their locks at night. But I have never been understood, never been seen as more than monster. You are more than a monster, Jake said. You have intelligence. You have curiosity. You have the ability to change. That makes you a person, not a monster. Person, Vexthara repeated. Another. New word? I am person? If you choose to be, Jake said, that's what makes someone a person. The choice to be better than what you were born to be. Lisa was studying her scanner readings. Jake, this is incredible. Vexthara's brain patterns are showing complex emotional responses. It's not just intelligent, it's capable of growth, of change, of feeling. I feel, Vexthara said. I feel alone. I feel curious. I feel regret. These are new feelings, uncomfortable feelings, but also Jake made a decision that would change everything. Vexthara, what if you didn't have to be alone anymore? What if you could learn to be something new? The creature's eyes brightened. You would teach me? We could learn from each other, Jake said. You could teach us about the galaxy, about other species, about things we've never seen. And we could teach you about hope, about love, about what it means to choose to be better. But I am dangerous, Vexthara said. I have killed many. I could kill you. You could have killed us already, Jake pointed out. But you didn't. You chose to talk instead. You chose to show us the burial chamber. You chose to be different. That's the most human thing of all. Vexthara was quiet for a long time. When it spoke again, its voice was filled with something that sounded like wonder. I wish to learn. I wish to understand. I wish to choose to be better, but I do not know how, Jake smiled. That's okay. None of us know how at first. We learn together. We help each other, we make mistakes and try again. That's what it means to be human. Then, Vexthara said, lowering its massive head in what could only be described as a bow, I wish to learn to be human. The galaxy's most feared predator had just asked to learn how to be human. And Jake Harrison, standing in the ruins of a destroyed colony, realized that this was the most important moment in human history. 3 days passed on Zarian 7, and Jake Harrison found himself living in the strangest situation of his life. He was camping in the ruins of a dead colony with the galaxy's most feared predator, teaching it how to be human. Vexthara had built them a shelter from the twisted metal of the destroyed buildings. The creature's massive claws, which had once torn through steel like paper, now worked carefully to bend metal beams into safe walls. It was learning to use its strength to protect, instead of destroy. Watch how I do this, Jake said, showing Vexthara how to prepare food from their emergency supplies. We don't just eat to survive, we make the food taste good. We share it with others, we eat together and talk. Vexthara watched with intense focus. You make ritual of eating. Why? Because it brings us together, Lisa explained, stirring a pot of soup over their small heating unit. When we share food, we share our lives, we tell stories, we laugh. We become closer. The creature tried to copy their actions, but its massive claws made everything difficult. When it tried to stir the soup, it accidentally crushed the spoon. When it tried to pour water, it spilled most of it on the ground. I am clumsy, Vexthara said, its voice showing frustration. I am built for destruction, not creation. Everyone is clumsy when they're learning something new, Amy said kindly. Here, let me help you. Amy guided one of Vexthara's massive claws, showing it how to hold things gently. Slowly, carefully, the creature managed to pour water into a cup without spilling. I did it, Vexthara said, and Jake could hear something like joy in its voice. I created instead of destroyed. That's the first step, Jake said. Creation is harder than destruction, but it's worth it. Tony had been quiet most of the time, still not completely comfortable with their situation. But on the third day, something changed. He was cleaning his weapons when Vexthara approached. Your weapons? The creature said. You maintain them. Carefully. Why? Tony looked up at the massive predator. Because they keep us alive. But more than that, they help us protect others. A weapon is only as good as the person who uses it and the reason they use it. I am weapon, Vexthara said. But I have never been maintained, never been cared for. I have only been used. Tony set down his rifle and looked at the creature with new understanding. You're not a weapon, you're a person. And people need care? Not maintenance. What is difference? Care comes from love, Tony said. Maintenance comes from need. When someone cares for you, they do it because they want you to be happy and healthy, not because they need you to work. Vexthara was quiet for a long moment. No one has ever cared for me. I have been alone for centuries. You're not alone anymore, Tony said, and Jake was surprised to hear the warmth in his voice. We're here. We care about you. Why, I killed your people. I am dangerous. I am monster. You were a monster, Tony said. But you're choosing to be something else now. That takes courage. I respect courage. That night, as they sat around their small fire, Vexthara asked Jake a question that changed everything. Jake, if I am to learn to be human, what must I do? What is the most important lesson? Jake thought carefully. The most important lesson is this. Being human means putting others before yourself. It means choosing to help even when it's hard. It means protecting those who can't protect themselves. I understand, Vexthara said. But how do I practice this? How do I learn to put others first? You're already doing it, Lisa said. You built us shelter. You've been gentle with us even though we're fragile. You've been patient when we tried to teach you things. But I want to do more, Vexthara said. I want to make up for the harm I have caused. Jake had an idea. There are other colonies in this sector, other human settlements. Some of them are in danger from space pirates, hostile aliens, natural disasters. You could help protect them, Vexthara's eyes brightened. I could use my strength to protect instead of destroy? Yes, but you would have to follow human leadership. You would have to learn to work with others. You would have to control your instincts and think before you act. I will do this, Vexthara said immediately. I will learn to serve others instead of serving only myself. The next morning, their conversation was interrupted by Amy's communication equipment beeping urgently. Jake, I'm getting a distress signal, Amy said. It's from the mining colony on Kepler 442b. They're under attack by Zephyrian raiders. Jake's blood ran cold. The Zephyrians were a vicious alien species that attacked human colonies for slaves and resources. They were fast, deadly, and cruel. How many ships? Jake asked. At least 12, Amy said. The colony only has basic defenses. They won't last long. Jake looked at his team. We need to get back to the Starbound and— No, Vexthara interrupted. Too slow, too far. Colony will be destroyed before we arrive. What do you suggest? Jake asked. I go first. I am faster than your ship. I can hold off attackers until you arrive. Tony shook his head. That's suicide. 12 ships against one creature? I have survived worse, Vexthara said. And I will not be fighting for myself. I will be fighting for others. You taught me this makes one stronger. Jake felt his heart racing. This was the test. This was the moment when Vexthara would prove whether it had truly learned what it meant to be human. If you do this, Jake said, you'll be putting yourself in terrible danger to save people you've never met. People who would be terrified of you if they saw you. Yes, Vexthara said simply, this is what humans do. This is what I choose to do. You could die, Lisa said, double quotes. Yes, but they will live. And that is more important than my life. Jake looked into the creature's glowing eyes and saw something he had never expected to see. He saw humanity, not human biology, but human spirit. The willingness to sacrifice for others. The choice to put strangers' lives above your own safety. Then go, Jake said. But remember, you're not just representing yourself now. You're representing all of us. You're representing the idea that anyone can change, that anyone can choose to be better. Vexthara stood to its full height, 12 feet of muscle and claw and deadly power. But when it spoke, its voice was gentle. I will not disappoint you. I will not disappoint the humans who died here. I will not disappoint myself. The creature turned to leave, then stopped and looked back at Jake's team. Thank you, it said. For the first time in my existence, I know what it means to have purpose beyond myself. I know what it means to have friends. I know what it means to choose hope over despair. Jake felt tears forming in his eyes. Vexthara, wait, the creature turned back. When you face those raiders, remember this, you are not fighting as a predator. You are fighting as a protector, you are fighting as a human. Vexthara's massive head bowed low, almost touching the ground. It was a gesture of respect, of gratitude, of submission not to Jake's authority, but to Jake's wisdom. "I understand," Vextara said. "I am no longer the galaxy's strongest predator. I am the galaxy's newest human." With that, the creature launched itself into the sky, its powerful legs carrying it toward the stars and toward a battle that would define not just its own future, but the future of human and alien relations across the galaxy. Jake watched until Vexthera disappeared into the red clouds above. Then he turned to his team. "Get us back to the Starbound," he said. "We have a new ally to support." As they ran toward their shuttle, Jake realized that something incredible had just happened. The galaxy's most feared predator had just submitted to human values. Not because it had been defeated, but because it had been inspired. The question was no longer why the predator had submitted to a human. The question was what they would do with this new bond that could change everything. 6 months after the battle at Kepler 442b, Jake Harrison stood in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council on the planet Nexus Prime. Around him, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in curved rows, all staring at the most unusual sight in galactic history. Vextara stood beside Jake, no longer the terrifying predator that had once haunted the nightmares of entire civilizations. The creature still looked dangerous, with its black scales and glowing eyes, but everything about its posture had changed. It stood protectively close to Jake, its massive head lowered slightly in a gesture of respect. "The floor recognizes Admiral Jake Harrison of the Human Federation," announced the council speaker, a tall blue alien with 4 arms. Jake stepped forward. "Thank you, Speaker Zalthan. 6 months ago, humanity lost 2,000 colonists on Zarian 7. Today I stand here to tell you that their sacrifice was not in vain. It led to the most important discovery in galactic history." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Many of the aliens present had heard rumors about what had happened, but few believed them. "The creature you see beside me was once known as the Death Shadow, the Void Hunter, the Galaxy's End. It destroyed fleets, consumed worlds, and made entire species flee to the far edges of space. But something changed when it encountered humanity." Ambassador Kretak of the Reptilian Alliance stood up, his scaled face showing disbelief. "You expect us to believe that the most dangerous predator in known space has somehow become tame?" "Not tame," Jake said. "Transformed. There's a difference." Vextara stepped forward and several alien representatives moved back in fear. But when the creature spoke, its voice was calm and measured. "I am not tame," Vextara said through the universal translator. "I am choosing to be different, choosing to be better. Your people fear me because I was once what they expected me to be. But humans showed me that we can choose to be more than what we were born to be." The crystalline representative, a being made of living crystal, chimed in with a musical voice. "This is impossible. Predators do not change their nature." "It is against all biological law." Dr. Lisa Morgan, now serving as the chief xenobiologist for the Human Vexthara Partnership, stepped forward with her data tablet. "With respect, Ambassador Solara, that's exactly the point. Vexthara didn't change its nature. It chose to rise above its nature. That's what makes it remarkable." Lisa activated a holographic display showing brain scans and behavioral analysis. "Over the past 6 months, we've documented incredible changes in Vexthara's neural patterns. It has developed empathy, compassion, and what we can only describe as a moral compass. These are not biological changes, they are choices." "Choices," repeated the avian delegate, her feathered head tilting in confusion. "But predators do not make moral choices. They follow instinct." "That's where you're wrong," Jake said. "The ability to make moral choices isn't limited to any one species. It's a capacity that can be developed by any intelligent being willing to learn." Vexthara moved closer to the center of the hall. "I have lived for over 800 years. In that time, I have encountered 47 different species. All of them responded to me with fear, weapons, or attempts to bargain for their lives. They saw me as a force of nature, something to be avoided or appeased." The creature's eyes seemed to dim as it remembered. "But humans were different. When faced with certain death, they did not abandon their weak. They did not sacrifice others to save themselves. They stood together, protected each other, and maintained hope even when hope was foolish. So you decided to spare them? Asked the insectoid representative, clicking his mandibles skeptically. No, Vextara said, and a shocked silence fell over the hall. I killed them. All of them. Because that was what I had always been, but their deaths taught me something that centuries of living had not. They taught me that there is more to existence than survival. Jake watched as the alien representative struggled to understand. Vexthara learned that humans value something more than life itself. We value what we stand for, what we protect, what we choose to be, and that inspired it to make its own choice. The choice to serve instead of dominate, Vexthara said. The choice to protect instead of destroy. The choice to hope instead of despair. Ambassador Kretak stood again. Fine words. But how do we know this is real? How do we know this creature won't return to its old ways when it becomes bored or hungry? Because, Jake said, it has already proven itself. The attack on Kepler 442b was not the only time Vexthara has risked its life to protect others. Show them Amy. Amy Johnson, now serving as the official recorder of human-alien relations, activated another holographic display. Images filled the air showing Vexthara in action over the past 6 months. The rescue of the Tau Ceti research station. From a solar flare, Amy narrated. Vexthara flew directly into the radiation to evacuate the scientists. It was injured for weeks. More images appeared. The defense of the Altair trading post from space pirates. Vexthara defeated 6 ships without killing a single pirate. It disabled their weapons and engines, then helped rescue their prisoners. The evacuation of the Vega colony during the volcanic eruption. Vexthara carried 3,000 colonists to safety, making dozens of trips through toxic ash clouds. Jake looked around the hall. In each case, Vexthara acted without being asked. It saw beings in danger and chose to help. That's not instinct, that's conscience. The ethereal delegate, a being of pure energy, spoke in a voice like wind chimes. But why? What does this creature gain from helping others? Vexthara's answer. Surprised everyone? I gain the knowledge that I am more than what I was made to be. I gain the friendship of beings who were once my prey. I gain the ability to sleep without dreams of destruction. I gain peace. Peace, the crystalline delegate repeated. A predator seeks peace? I am no longer a predator, Vexthara said. I am a guardian, I am a protector. I am, as humans taught me to be, a person who chooses to put others before myself. Jake stepped forward again. This is what we've learned from our partnership with Vexthara. The capacity for growth, for change, for choosing to be better than we were born to be, exists in all intelligent life. It's not limited to humans. It's not limited to any single species. But humans showed the way, Vexthara added. Humans demonstrated that true strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the choice to preserve. Not from the ability to take life, but from the willingness to give life meaning. Speaker Zalthan called for order as excited discussions broke out among the delegates. This is unprecedented. The implications are staggering. The implications are hopeful, Jake sighed. If the galaxy's most feared predator can choose to become its most dedicated protector, then perhaps we can all choose to be better than we are. Tony Martinez, now serving as the Chief Security Officer for the partnership, stepped forward. With the Council's permission, I'd like to share something personal. Speaker Zalthan nodded. 6 months ago, I wanted to kill Vexthara. It had murdered innocent people, destroyed families, brought pain to thousands. But I learned something important. The measure of a being is not what it has done, but what it chooses to do next. Tony looked directly at Vexthara. This creature chose to be better. It chose to use its power to protect instead of destroy. It chose to serve others instead of serving only itself. If that's not the definition of humanity, I don't know what. Humanity, Vexthara said, is not about being human. It is about choosing to be humane. It is about choosing compassion over cruelty, hope over despair, love over fear. The hall fell silent as the full impact of these words sank in. Jake looked around at all the different species represented in the council. We proposed the creation of a new organization, the Galactic Protection Alliance. A partnership between species who choose to put the welfare of others above their own interests. And Vextara would lead this alliance? Asked the avian delegate. No, Jake said. We would lead it together. Human wisdom and alien strength. Human compassion and alien abilities. Working together to protect all life in the galaxy. Vextara bowed its massive head. I submit to this purpose. I submit to this hope. I submit to this choice to be better than what I was. Speaker Zalthan stood slowly. The Council will consider this proposal. But I must ask, Admiral Harrison, what if this creature reverts to its old ways? What if this change is temporary? Jake smiled. Then we'll deal with that when it happens. But I don't think it will. You see, Vextara didn't just learn to be human. It learned to be better than human. It learned to be what we all could be if we chose to be. As the session ended and the delegates filed out, many stopping to stare at the unlikely partnership between human and predator, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The galaxy's strongest predator had submitted to humanity. Not because it had been defeated, but because it had been inspired. And in doing so, it had shown the entire galaxy that anyone, no matter how dark their past, could choose to be a force for good. The question was no longer why the predator had submitted to a human. The question was what wonders they would accomplish together as they chose, day by day, to be better than they were born to be.